The warning signal, had been there for hours, blinking on every display inside the alien cruiser. It was not loud. It was not aggressive. But it carried a weight that made the younger crew members uneasy. A cold human voice repeated the same sentence over and over. You have entered human space. Turn back or be destroyed. The crew exchanged glances, but their captain, Vorth, only smiled. He was a tall, scaled predator with a reputation for ignoring threats. Humans, he believed, were a dead race or at best a fading one. Stories about them were campfire tales for children and smugglers. No one has seen a real human ship in centuries, Vorth said, leaning back in his command chair. Besides, this is prime hunting territory. He added, his claws tapping on the armrest. The crew laughed nervously, but no one dared to challenge him. The ship, Iron Fang, crossed deeper into the border zone. The stars ahead looked no different. Yet the navigation display flickered for a moment. It was as if the galaxy itself had skipped a heartbeat. Weapons Officer Krell checked his readings, then frowned. Captain, sensors are behaving strangely. I'm losing range on long scans, he said. Vorth waved him off. Probably just interference. Keep moving. But Krell noticed something else. The static wasn't random. It was forming symbols in human script, blinking faintly across the screen, symbols he could not read, but they made his skin crawl. Half an hour later, the first real sign appeared. A contact on the scope, dead ahead. No heat signature, no engine output, but the shape was clear. A ship, long, narrow, armored in a dull gray. It seemed to absorb light. It floated in space without moving, blocking their path like a sentinel. The crew leaned forward in their seats, the bridge growing quiet. Vorth's eyes narrowed. An old wreck, perhaps easy salvage, he said. He ordered the scanners to probe it. The moment they did, the Iron Fang's displays flashed white. Then the results came back. Access denied in human script. What in the void does that mean? Muttered the navigator. Krell's hands shook as he tried again. But the same result appeared. Not just that. Now their own systems were showing error codes. Error codes written in human language. The communications panel came alive on its own. A calm human voice spoke, clear and sharp. Trespassing confirmed. Your return is denied. Every crew member froze, the words cutting deeper than any weapon. Vorth barked. Arm weapons? Let's teach them who owns this space. The weapons? Charged. But before the order to fire could be given, the lights dimmed. Power levels dropped across the ship, one system after another shutting down. The engines went first, then shields. Then life support alarms began to blink. Power failure across. All decks, shouted the engineer, panic in his voice. The strange thing was, nothing had hit them. No missiles, no lasers, no boarding craft. It was as if the Iron Fang itself had simply chosen to die. Get me auxiliary power now. Vorth roared, but the backup systems refused to respond. Krell looked at the captain. With wide eyes, Sir, it's like the ship doesn't belong to us anymore, he whispered. That sentence sent a chill through the entire bridge. Outside, the human vessel still floated, unmoving, yet it seemed closer than before, even though no one had seen it move. Through the forward viewports, the crew could swear they saw shapes behind its dark windows, figures standing still, watching. Them. Vorth tried to open a channel, but the console locked him out. The same human voice spoke again, slower this time. Your return is denied. Then the sound cut off, replaced by silence so deep it pressed on their ears. One of the younger crew members whispered, Captain, I think we should leave. Vorth snapped. There is no leaving until I say so. But even he was sweating now, his tail lashing in agitation. He looked at the sensors again and frowned. The star map was changing. The familiar. Constellations were shifting. The positions wrong. It was as if the Iron Fang was no longer in the galaxy they knew. "Where are we?" the navigator asked. No one answered, because no one could. Krell checked the rear cameras. The space behind them was empty. No stars, no light, just a black void swallowing the horizon. He turned back to see the human ship now directly in front of them. It filled the view enormous, and for the first time, Vorth felt the weight of something he could not fight. This was not a battle. It was a sentence. The crew waited for the captain's command, but none came, because deep down, Vorth knew the truth. They had crossed into human space, and no one leaves human space. The silent ship, the Iron Fang, drifted in the dark, its systems unresponsive. The crew sat frozen. The air thick with the taste of fear. No alarm sounded now, only the faint hum of emergency lights. It felt like the ship was holding its breath. Waiting outside, the human vessel hung in space, motionless but not lifeless. Its surface was dull gray, broken only by faint lines that pulsed like veins. Every few seconds, a ripple passed through its hull, almost like it was breathing. No one spoke until Krell whispered, "It's watching us." No one asked how he knew, because they all felt it too. The scanners, though barely alive, picked up impossible readings. The ship had no heat, no engine output, no reactor core. Yet it was there, solid and undeniable. The data confused the computers, and the results kept looping in human script. Vorth gritted his teeth. There must be a way to disable it, he growled. But when he tried to open weapons control, the display went black. Then a single image appeared, a human face, pale, expressionless, staring directly at him. It blinked once, then vanished. The crew gasped, some backing away from their stations. "Was that Lev?" the navigator asked in a shaky voice. No one knew. A deep vibration rolled through the Iron Fang. It was not from their own engines. It came from the human ship. The sound was low, almost too low to hear, but it made their bones ache. Krell's console flickered again, and new readings appeared. "Captain, I think it's inside our systems," he said. Vorth barked, "Shut it out!" But there was no response from the controls. The human voice returned, softer now, like it was speaking from the walls themselves. "Trespassing confirmed. Observation in progress." The lights dimmed again, and in the silence, shapes moved across the viewports. Not ships, not space debris, but shadows of human figures walking in the void. The crew whispered among themselves. Some claimed the figures were wearing old military armor. Others swore they saw faces. Vorth ignored them, trying to calculate any path to escape. But the navigation map now showed only one direction forward. Behind them, the black void stretched endlessly, swallowing even the light of distant stars. Ahead, the human vessel loomed. Larger now, it rotated slightly, revealing long rows of what looked like open hangar bays. In each bay, faint blue lights flickered. "Maybe it's inviting us in," the navigator muttered, half in terror, half in awe. "No," Krell said quickly. "It's not an invitation without warning." The Iron Fang began to move. The engines were still offline, yet they drifted toward the human ship, faster and faster, drawn by a force none of them could resist. Vorth slammed his clawed hands on the console, shouting for control override. The screen responded with a single human word: "Denied." The hangar bays grew larger in the viewport. Some crew members began to pray in their own languages. Others just stared. The voice spoke one last time before they crossed the threshold. "Your return is not required." The darkness swallowed them, and the stars disappeared. Asterisk, asterisk. The vanishing crew, the Iron Fang, floated in darkness. There was no sense of motion. Yet the walls seemed to press inward. The air felt heavier, as if breathing itself had become an effort. Faint blue light spilled in from the hangar beyond, casting long, shifting shadows across the deck. No one spoke. Every sound seemed too loud here. Even a whisper, Krell checked the crew roster on his console and froze. "Captain, we're missing 2 crew members," he said quietly. Vorth's head snapped toward him. "What do you mean, missing?" "They're gone," Krell replied, his voice trembling. "They're life signs. Just stopped, no alarm, no struggle. The captain ordered a full search. Teams moved through the dim corridors, flashlights cutting through the darkness. But the ship felt different now. Longer, emptier. Hallways that should have led to crew quarters opened into rooms none of them had seen before. In one corridor, they found a security camera feed still active. The screen showed the missing crew members walking calmly into the airlock, without suits, without hesitation. Their eyes were open, but empty. A moment later, the footage looped, showing the same scene over and over. Krell tried to rewind the recording, but the controls locked. The human voice whispered over the speakers, softer than before. "Observation continues." More crew disappeared in the next hour. One moment they were at their stations. The next they were simply gone. No breach in the hull. No evidence of where they had gone. In the mess hall, the last security officer reported hearing footsteps behind him. When he turned, he saw a human figure in an old, torn spacesuit. The visor was cracked, and inside was nothing but darkness. Then the lights flickered, and the figure was gone. The officer was found minutes later, sitting in his chair, eyes wide open, breathing slow. He didn't respond to questions. He just kept whispering, "We shouldn't be here. On the bridge." Vorth fought to keep control. He ordered shields raised, only to be reminded that every defensive system had been dead since they arrived. Navigation showed no coordinates now, only a single line of text in human script. Krell translated it with the ship's database. It read, "Transit incomplete." Outside the viewport, the human ship still floated, but now its hull was open. Through the yawning gaps, they saw hundreds of shapes drifting inside. Some were clearly ships, alien, human, and unknown designs. Others looked like broken cities, suspended in a void that wasn't space at all. The remaining crew clung to the hope that they could still turn back. But Vorth's instincts told him the truth. They weren't being chased, they were being collected. One more crew member vanished right on the bridge. No flash of light, no sound, just gone. And in his place, a drop of water fell onto the floor from nowhere. It spread into a thin puddle, reflecting not the bridge ceiling, but the pale face of a human. The face smiled, and the puddle rippled before fading away. Silence followed, broken only by the voice. "Your return is denied. Asterisk. The hunter." Becomes the hunted. The bridge of the Iron Fang was silent. Not the normal silence of space, but a crushing, unnatural quiet that seemed to listen back. Vorth gripped the armrest of his chair, claws scraping the metal. The predator's confidence he was known for was gone. He could feel it. Something was inside their ship. Not a boarding party, not a virus, but a presence that filled every shadow. The human vessel outside had not moved, yet Vorth felt its attention pressing against him, like an animal watching from the dark, waiting for its prey to make a mistake. The remaining crew were pale and jumpy. Every small sound made them flinch. Some kept glancing toward the viewports, expecting to see those human figures again. Others refused to look outside at all, as if the sight might pull them into that void. Vorth decided to open communications, hoping to negotiate. The console lit up before he even touched it. A grainy image appeared, not the human face from before, but the Iron Fang itself. It was drifting in black space, surrounded by hundreds of other ships, all lifeless. All pointed toward the same. Silent watcher. Then the image flickered to show the bridge. Only there were more people in it. Rows of humans standing in the shadows behind the crew. Unmoving, Krell's voice cracked. "Captain." "They're on the ship." Vorth spun. But there was nothing there still. The cold weight of eyes followed him. The human voice returned, calm and final. You hunted in our space, now you are prey. A deep shudder rolled through the iron. Fang, not from any impact, but from something gripping the hull. It felt like invisible claws were dragging them forward. The navigation screen blinked, then replaced the star field with new coordinates, ones that didn't exist in any chart. The words beneath it read, "Final destination." The crew scrambled for weapons, but each firearm's power cell had been drained. Even the emergency blades were gone, missing from their holsters. Panic broke what little discipline they had left. One officer bolted for the escape pods, only to find the bay completely empty, not damaged, simply missing, as if it had never existed. The voice whispered again, "No return." The sound of footsteps echoed from the corridor just outside the bridge. Slow and deliberate, not the clank of alien boots, but the soft, heavy tread of human combat armor. Vorth raised his head, staring into the shadows. The hunter in him wanted to fight, but the prey in him knew there was nothing left to kill. Only something waiting to claim them. Asterisk. The countdown ends. The footsteps grew louder. No one dared to move. The sound was slow, steady, each step echoing far longer than it should. Krell gripped the edge of his console, his knuckles pale. Then a new sound cut through the silence. A deep, rhythmic pulse. It came from the speakers, but it was more than sound. It shook their bones. Matching the pace of a heartbeat, the bridge lights flickered, and a countdown appeared on every screen. It started at 60, ticking down in human numbers. No one knew what would happen when it reached 0. No one wanted to find out. Vorth barked orders to sever all power to the bridge. Maybe they could cut the countdown by killing the displays, but every control panel ignored them. The ship was no longer theirs. At 40 seconds, the air temperature dropped. Breath came out in small white clouds. Krell's teeth chattered, his hands shaking over dead controls. At 30 seconds, they heard voices. Not one, but many human voices, speaking in different tones, overlapping. Some sounded angry, others sorrowful. Some whispered their names. Others simply said, "Stay." At 20 seconds, the view outside the viewport changed. The black void was gone, replaced by an impossible sight. Hundreds, no, thousands of human warships surrounded them. They were arranged in a perfect sphere, their silent hulls reflecting faint light. Some were massive battleships. Others were tiny fighters. All of them pointed inward, toward the Iron Fang. The crew stared in awe and horror. Krell's voice cracked. This is a graveyard." Vorth shook his head. "No, this is a warning." At 10 seconds, the human voice returned. It was the same calm tone from the border, but now it carried a finality that felt like a closing door. Trespassing confirmed, judgment delivered. The final seconds ticked away. 9, 8, 7. Some crew prayed, some screamed, some sat in silence. 3, 2, 1. The lights went out. For a long moment, there was nothing, no sound, no movement. Then the lights returned. But the bridge was empty. Every crew member was gone except for Vorth. He stood alone, frozen in place, staring at the viewport. Outside, the human fleet was gone, replaced by the endless black void again. Only the human ship remained, its shadow covering the stars. Asterisk. The final message. Vorth could not move. His claws were locked around the armrests, muscles frozen as if the air itself had hardened. The human ship outside floated in perfect stillness. Its dull gray surface seemed to drink the faint light from distant stars. Then, without warning, the Iron Fang shifted, not by its own power, but as if an invisible hand had taken hold. Through the viewport, the stars began to change. The black void melted away, replaced by the familiar constellations. Of normal space, Vorth realized they were no longer inside the trap. They were back. The ship drifted aimlessly near the edge of human space. Its hull bore no damage. Its systems were quietly humming again. Yet the bridge felt empty. Too empty, the crew was gone, every station abandoned. Vorth stood, his movements slow. As though fighting water, he left the bridge and walked the corridors. Every room was silent, bunks neatly made, gear stored in place. It was as if the crew had never been here at all. In the mess hall, he found something strange. Words scratched into the metal table, crude but deep. They were in his own language, yet he knew instantly they were not written by any of his kind. Do not enter human space. The letters looked fresh, the edges sharp. His tail twitched nervously as he moved on. In engineering, he found more, the same phrase carved into bulkheads, floor panels, even the backs of control consoles. Everywhere he went, the warning was there, repeating. It felt less like a message and more like a curse. Finally, he returned to the bridge. The captain's chair awaited him, and he sat down without thinking. The comms console activated on its ohm. Static filled the screen, then slowly resolved into an image. It was his own reflection, but not as he was now. This version of Vorth was pale, eyes sunken, breathing shallow. Behind him stood his missing crew, motionless, silent, their faces blank. The reflection leaned forward and whispered in a voice. That was not his own. You never leave. The image faded, replaced by a final message in human script. The ship's database translated it automatically. Your return is permitted, but never complete. The comms went dark. Vorth sat in the quiet, his claws still gripping the chair. Somewhere deep in the walls, he thought he heard footsteps again. They were getting closer. The next victim, the Iron Fang, was found drifting 3 days later by a neutral salvage vessel. Its beacon was active, but no one answered their hails. The salvage crew boarded cautiously, weapons drawn. Inside, they found only one life form, Captain Vorth. He was seated in the captain's chair, breathing, eyes open, staring straight ahead. He did not blink when they spoke. He did not move when they touched him. All he whispered, over and over, was, "You never leave." The salvage crew searched the rest of the ship. Every wall, door, and console bore the same message carved into it. Do not enter human space. The air felt wrong, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. One of the salvagers swore they heard footsteps in the halls. Another claimed to see a human face staring at them from a dark viewport. When they checked, the glass showed only empty space. The Iron Fang was towed back to a neutral station. Vorth was placed in medical quarantine. Doctors ran every test they could, but his mind was somewhere far away. Sometimes he spoke in human language. Sometimes he said nothing for hours. One night, a nurse reported hearing 2 voices speaking inside his room. But when security entered, he was alone. Weeks later, the story of the Iron Fang spread through the underworld. Some captains laughed at it. Others marked the borders of human space with a wide berth. But one smuggler, young and ambitious, thought it was a perfect chance for glory. He gathered his crew, loaded his ship, and set course for the invisible line. As the stars shifted ahead, his navigation lit up with a signal. A calm human voice spoke over the comms. You have entered human space. Turn back or be destroyed. The smuggler grinned and pushed forward. He never saw the shadow move across his bow. He never heard the voice again until it whispered, "Trespassing confirmed. Your return is denied. Asterisk."